Steven Universe isn't garbage. Recently, a video by Lily Orchard has been gaining a lot of traction, claiming that Steven Universe is a garbage show made by garbage people. And to me, this just is not true. I mean, sure, the show has its flaws, but garbage? It's laying it on a little thick there. And yeah, I watched all 2 hours of this very angry video. Granted, not in one sitting. I'm not that much of a sadist, but I was genuinely curious as to what she had to say. Maybe she could offer some valid criticisms that changed my opinion of the show. And sure, she offered some very valid criticisms, but they weren't all valid in my book. And let me tell you, my book, it's part of the Oprah Book Club. It's still a thing, right? I think it's still a thing. While Lily's video is what inspired me to make this video, this won't entirely serve as a direct response to her in particular, but rather to a lot of the complaints that she brought up and many others bring up when they mention that Steven Universe is a bad show. I'm not here to attack Lily in any way, and I'm not here to convince anyone that may not like the show that they should start liking the show. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion and liking whatever it is they like, as long as it doesn't hurt people and it isn't Sonic 06. I'm just here to combat the notion that Steven Universe is a garbage show and that the people that make it are garbage. And obviously, I do firmly believe that this show has a lot more to offer in terms of quality, and it does much more good than harm in the long run. First, let's talk about where I do agree. Yes, Steven Universe does have its share of issues, and some of what Lily and others have to say do make sense. Pink Diamond is a flawed and manipulative person, and while Rebecca Sugar has gone on record to confirm this, the show, narratively speaking, does not do quite enough to really make the audience feel conflicted about her or her actions. The inconsistent character models are something that gets to me as well. Seeing Lapis and Peridot's hair 2 times too big, or Connie's head not matching her body, and all the characters' pupils being 5 times their size, or Pearl's nose looking like an icicle, really do take me out of the experience. And I do appreciate that Rebecca was looking and willing to give the storyboarders their own style and roam free with the characters she created, but I do feel like some of these styles just don't work well for Steven Universe specifically. It's not that it's bad art at all, it's just jarring in the context of this show, and especially when there are 2 storyboard artists in a single episode with 2 drastically different art styles, kind of breaks immersion. I'll give you that. And I agree that we seem to be sympathizing a little too much with the diamonds, at least with blue and yellow. It is like the show kind of forgot that these are genocidal, tyrannical monsters, and the narrative that, quote-unquote, everyone can be forgiven does not really fly with me either. It is as if Steven is just willing to throw all their bad deeds out the window, and sure, strategically speaking, making up with the diamonds is definitely the best move, but there probably should have been a little bit more hesitation. Garnet was a little hesitant, and Bismuth wasn't super down with it, but it more or less kind of got glossed over pretty quickly. But at the same time, we also don't know where their arc is going to play out from here just yet, so let's kind of wait and see how that plays out. And yes, while Rose being Pink Diamond added an interesting dynamic and greater context to the entire series before it, it did take away from the narrative of Steven having to deal with the fact that his mother may have had to commit a murder for the greater good, because some people don't deserve forgiveness, I agree. And some people just straight up need to be stopped. Not everyone can be reasoned with, which I feel was a strong lesson for Steven to learn since he tries to reach the good side in everybody, and it would have been an interesting perspective for him to see that he can't just do that all the time. And it does kind of take away from the whole factor of Pearl being a rebel. Now she's just kind of a slave in love with her master, and that's tragic, and it changes the narrative, but it does kind of take away from everything we knew about Pearl beforehand that kind of made her a little more cool, I guess. I and many other Steven Universe fans absolutely agree that the Beach City episodes do take away from the larger, more compelling, serialized plot of the Gems and Homeworld. Part of this is due to the hiatuses and the disappointment of not getting back to big arcs after long waits, but yeah, the Beach City episodes definitely tend to kill the pacing of the show at times. That being said, damn near all these episodes as their standalone experiences are actually very well done with meaningful themes, character development, and genuinely funny humor. And I like all of the Beach City characters, well, most of them. It may damage the bigger picture, but at the end of the day, it is still good television. So to me, these are the biggest offenders for Steven Universe. There are probably other little nitpicky things here and there, but this is the bulk of it. And so far, hold on, let me crunch the numbers. Let me just do the math. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like a garbage show. In fact, it doesn't sound like a bad show at all. I can name a handful of shows that have got more glaring issues than this, and I would certainly not consider them garbage by any stretch. So what about the claims that people make that I don't agree with, or are in some cases just flat out incorrect, like factually incorrect? Remember facts? Those are fun. Firstly, you're entitled to believe whatever you want, but the Crewniverse does not control the schedule for Steven Universe releases. That's fully the network. It has nothing to do with the crew or their work ethic or ability to produce things fast enough. It's the network. The crew is fully aware of the wonky schedule and has addressed it on many occasions, and it directly goes against the vision that they had for the show. I don't like the current schedule. Most people don't. It's all over the place, and I wish it would get fixed or that Cartoon Network had a better plan for it. But on the flip side, I also recognize that I don't have all the details and what their logic might be for having such a sporadic release schedule. Further context might not change my mind, but it would at least give me a bit more understanding as to why things are the way they are. Either way, it has nothing to do with the crew. Let that go. Now let's talk about the notion that it has some sort of leftist agenda. Everyone relax. Calm down. Nobody move. I'm not getting into politics or where I fit on the political spectrum. It's completely irrelevant to my point, and regardless of where I stand, it would cause mass chaos in the comments, more than I'm sure there already is. But a big complaint about Steven Universe is that it fits some sort of leftist agenda. And I would agree if by leftist agenda you mean gays existing, gay people having relationships. Yeah, I don't really see how the show has a leftist agenda. There are no episodes about guns or abortion or I don't know, canceling Kanye West. It seems as though when people accuse the show of having a leftist agenda, they're referring to the fact that it has gay people. To me, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. Gay people existing and being real people is not and should not be a political stance. Now, while there are people who think Steven Universe is too left-leaning, there are also people who think they're too easy on the extreme right-wing intolerant people. Specifically, Uncle Andy. Yes, clearly Uncle Andy was made out to be someone who is a person that is too stuck in tradition and the old ways things were done, and has a clear prejudice against the Gems and Greg's carefree lifestyle. The thing is, though, Andy warmed up to everyone in the end. Yeah, it was a hard adjustment period, and he was very vocal about how against everything he was, but he actually tried to understand. And while he may not agree with everything about Greg's new world, his new life, he came to terms with it and learned to respect the Gems despite their differences. I mentioned before that I do think Steven Universe can go a little easy on the villains, but this is not one of those moments. Some people can be forgiven for their ignorance, assuming they put in the effort to actually change. I have friends and family from all across the political spectrum, and I love them and care about them despite the fact I may think certain people's ideologies are wrong, because I know that they are truly good people to their core. Maybe flawed, maybe stuck in their ways, maybe even completely illogical, but good people nonetheless. And I think when we're able to make the distinction between the obviously bad, irredeemable people and the misguided, ignorant, decent people, we might actually make some real progress. And I think that was the point of this episode. But maybe that's just wishful thinking. Speaking of racism, there are notions that Steven Universe is also just flat out racist, because Bismuth is black presenting and was treated bad, or because Sugalite is sort of black presenting and unstable. Okay, so like black people can't be treated badly or maybe have some issues. Also, I'm sorry, they're aliens. They're aliens. Look at this cast and crew. Does this look like a racist cast and crew? No, it does not. We're going to ignore the fact that Garnet is sick and a fan favorite character, and the pizzas and Mr. Smiley among the rest of this racially and spatially diverse cast of characters inside and out. No. I've been pretty chill this whole time, but the notion that Sugalite is racist is honestly too illogical for me to fathom. I know this video isn't a direct response to Lily's, but she honestly believes that Nicki Minaj hasn't returned because she felt as though Sugalite was racist and portrayed her negatively. Or maybe it's because she is Nicki Minaj. You know, the one with a net worth of $75 million. It's a miracle that she was even able to get on the show to begin with, let alone bring her back for a second time to record. So no, I don't think the show is racist. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, Concrete was bad. It was a bad move. There's a poor attention to detail for whoever let that slip in the art book. But it's over. Rebecca Sugar herself and the other crew members have already directly addressed it and apologized for it. I'm inclined to believe what they said and forgive the mistake. I don't think Concrete is any type of smoking gun that the entire crew and Rebecca Sugar are racist and hate black people. And this is coming from a black man. Look at that. Now on to the fandom. As a member of the fandom can be very toxic. We all know it. The crew knows it. That strange guy named Steve I met at a bus stop once who asked me what time it was because his phone died knows it. Yes, the Steven Universe fandom is filled with, ironically, intolerance, harassment, death threats, you name it. The thing is though, and this may be obvious, but the fandom doesn't speak for the quality of the show itself. Just because some bad eggs slip through the carton doesn't mean the omelet can't be delicious. That made sense, right? That was close enough analogy, whatever. The point is, just because a portion of the fandom can be loud and bad news does not mean the work in which they are fans of is bad. In my mind, Steven Universe has a lot going for it. Its themes of relationships of all kinds, consent, love, resentment, forgiveness, betrayal, grief, life, death, heartbreak, insecurity, trauma, war, abuse, identity, individuality, communication, and just straight up being yourself all vastly outweigh any of the negatives I brought up in this video. Have all of these themes been addressed flawlessly? Maybe not. Is there potential for the show to dive deeper into some of these themes in more meaningful ways? Sure. But Steven Universe still nails these themes more often than they don't. Steven trying to live up to some imaginary standard set by his mom and learning to be his own person. Amethyst learning to love who she is. Pearl dealing with the feeling of never truly being loved back by the one she loved the most. Garnet dealing with the burden of trying to hold the team together while also coming to terms with the fact that she doesn't have all the answers for the future, just like us. Ruby and Sapphire are actually talking things through in their relationship. Peridot coping with dependency, honesty, and adjusting to culture shock. Lapis feeling like an outsider because everyone else seems to be getting the hang of something quicker and better than she is, and learning that the horrible things that happened in the past don't have to define you. Greg diving in and taking the risk to follow his dreams. Connie coming out of her shell, just to name a few. You can love Steven Universe, you can hate it. I'm not going to tell you what to think about this show, but I will say, and maybe think about the extent of your criticisms. Even if they're valid, maybe you're putting too much emphasis on them, or maybe some of them straight up just don't make sense. It's gotten to the point where people will accuse Rebecca Sugar and the Queeniverse of being terrible people. That's pretty harsh and not really necessary, especially since you don't know them. Nothing about this show gives me the impression that anyone working on it have any sort of ill intent behind their work, and this is just as evident in their work. Just because the characters might be going a little too easy or diplomatic on space Nazis does not mean that Rebecca Sugar is just out here defending Nazis in her free time. Steven Universe means a lot to a lot of people. It's a show that has unlocked people's willingness to accept and love who they are and to feel comfortable with their gender identity or race or even just the things that they enjoy. I consider myself a critical person, but this is a show that was able to reinvigorate my love for animation again. It's a show that has resonated deeply with so many different kinds of people. Despite the drama, Steven Universe has brought more good into the world for existing. Lives are better for it, and if the show was really as garbage as people say, I don't think it would have been able to pull that off. But maybe I'm wrong. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos like these that are more in-depth, retrospective. So if you enjoyed this, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and consider supporting us on Patreon. You can click the link right here. Doing these videos takes a lot more time than our standard casual discussions, so it'd be much appreciated. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I've been Michael Williams. You've been watching Cartoon Universe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.